What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Cinematic Soul podcast. I'm your host, E. And today's episode is special to me in several ways. It's personal, not even just because of the movie we're discussing today. And yes, I said we, but it's also because of who I have on the podcast. So let me give you a quick story. Back in about 5th grade, I was at a school called CICS, and I got my first, I would say, real taste of stage life. I was on a stage in kindergarten for maybe like a minute singing with my whole class, but I was not heard at all. Like, I wasn't up front. I was just in the back, nodding my head. That was it. So prior to this show, I hadn't had any stage experience. So this was my first taste of what that felt like, that rush, that thrill. And to be honest with you, this was really what gave me that spark and what made me want more of it. That they say dopamine rush you get, that I got that times 10 when we did this show. And I wish I had known what that was going to feel like prior to doing the show. But I was like 10 years old, so I had no idea. I wanted more. I wanted the show to continue. It did not, which we will talk about, but that stage was more than enough for me. It gave me something I didn't know I needed, and something clicked for me. And the person who's here with me today is part of the reason why I'm doing this show. I became an actor, a theater major. That would not have been possible. I would not have even thought about it if I had never done the Wiz. So my guest today is Mr. Keith Myles Sr. Mr. Keith, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. I appreciate being invited and looking forward to the interview. And thanks again. Blessings.
Yes, of course. I'm happy to have you here. It still doesn't feel real to me because, like I said, you all, this was 2002, 2003. And here we are in 2026. I'm on a podcast and I have you with me to talk about the Wiz. That's life, huh? Life is funny like that.
Yeah. It's really rewarding also to just to hear the intro, just the beginnings, because this is things that I really never knew. All I know is I enjoyed you, enjoyed your sister and family, and that was my entree into education, just being a drama teacher. And again, it's just really rewarding to hear. I'm looking forward to even hearing more and talking about it.
Yes, sir. And it's actually funny you say that because my first question to you was, what made you want to get into becoming a drama teacher, and what brought you to CICS more specifically?
Yeah. Well, that's really interesting. It's particularly at this stage of my life, and it's cool to reflect back on it. Actually began with charters were a new school situation,
Okay.
as kind of like a competitor to CPS, Chicago Public Schools,
Exactly.
back in the day. I had a friend that invited me to apply for a job. I had lost a job of many years that I really was not connected to. I worked at Chicago Board Option Exchange downtown, and I didn't understand finance. I didn't understand options, and I was out of work. I was a young married gentleman and had kids, and I didn't know what I was going to do. And this friend said, Keith, they're looking for people at the charter school, and they're looking for people that are, that have a background in the community and working
hmm
with children. And I didn't really know much about what I was gonna do, Ernest, until I got confronted with this opportunity. And I knew I loved kids. I always loved kids,
Right.
and I wasn't a teacher. I give big ups and kudos to people that are teachers, that are trained to work with children and have a heart for
It's an
children.
amazing job.
It is, I mean, to say they're underpaid is a gross understatement. 'Cause,
Absolutely.
again, handling children that a lot of times are not handled at home by their parents
Hmm.
and being charged with the responsibility of teaching them, it's like, wow, it's a lot. But I I was under the gun, and it's like I needed a job. My wife at the time was giving me the side eye, say, "What you gonna do?"
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's like, hey,
Gotta make something happen now.
I gotta do something. And I went and per the insistence of this friend, went and applied for the job. And all I had on my resume was, I had a couple of years of college, but I had my background as a drama teacher. I started teaching
Okay.
drama in the church that I was involved in. I had done a drama ministry, and I believe strongly enough that I love kids, and I've always loved the theater arts, even though I'm not educated to do this, but let me give it a shot. I mean, they're looking for people in the community. Let me go head on and at least give it a shot. You know, and I went and man, I mean, I sat just giving the guy the fact that I'd been teaching drama in a library. Actually, there's a school
Hmm.
called Wendell Smith Library School on 103rd in Chicago, and they had an
Oh yeah.
outreach to the community through their library. And that's where I was teaching drama. And I was giving the guy, my background. I love kids and I taught drama. And we had gone to the Chicago Children's Museum with this performance of The Wiz. And I told him that, and this guy, look, hey man, you are hired. I said, what? I said, you are
Oh wow.
hired on the spot. I said, "Wait a minute, are you sure?" I mean, knowing that I did not falsify my resume, put down that I'd only had 2 years of college, and I put it down. I said, "Are you sure?" He said, "Oh, man, you got it." And at the time, my pastor, Ben Johnson, that had got me the job in the library said, "Miles, if anybody ever offers you a job, you never say yes right away. Tell them you need 24 hours and you have to talk it over with your wife and work it out." And
Hmm.
I told this gentleman that, well, look, I need to at least discuss it with my wife at the time. And he said, look, cell phones were new. He and said, go to the parking lot, call your wife. Let her know you've been given an opportunity to have a job where you're wanted, needed, and you're on board. And sure enough, I went to the parking lot. I could barely get it out before the wife at the time was saying, "Hey, hey, hey, go back in there and tell that man you got that job." And that's
Wow.
what I did. It was called Sabis, and it's CICS Longwood now. And I was there, and like I said, I was in a whirlwind. I had a job. I had been out of work for like 3 years, and
Oh wow. Okay.
just doing part time gigging. And this guy hired me, man, and I was excited, and I was gonna be a dean. Actually, they call it a home liaison, and I was gonna teach drama. That was the main reason that he was hiring me. And it was an organization out of Palestine, and they were new to charters, and they were looking for, as I said, people like myself that had worked in the community. So they ate me up, I said, "Wow, I actually have a job." And
Yeah.
I was going through orientation, and I hope, let me know if I'm going off subject here, but it's really pertinent to what,
You're
get
good. You're good. Keep going.
getting the job. And the guy said,
Yes,
"You
sir.
know what, Miles?" He said, "We want to not only hire you with our organization, we want you to be a principal of a school on the north side, CICS Bucktown." And I said, "Maybe you didn't look at my resume. I am not
Are
that
you sure about this?
yeah." And we didn't know that. We were so excited about your experience. He said, "Oh, wow. Well, we might not only, do have to rescind that offer, but we might not be able to hire you here at CICS Longwood." I said, "Oh, man." I just thought
Oh
about the
wow.
trouble. I was gonna be in once I got home, and, I was all excited, but he said, "You know what?"
Mhm.
The next day, he said, "We're gonna find a way to keep you here in a lesser position that doesn't require you to have a educational degree. We're gonna let you teach drama. You're gonna be our in-house suspension guy, and, you're not gonna get anywhere near the money that we were gonna give you, but we're gonna keep you." And, sure enough, they kept me there. I taught drama. I was the in-house suspension guy, and it was, amazing the impact that I had on the students. Being in discipline, I was able to see the connection with the kids that wanted to be in drama and their improved behavior in the classroom. I said, "Wow, that's interesting,"
Yeah, that's beautiful.
yeah, just tying it in, and they saw that, I was fun loving, but, I did my job and I smiled. Whoever heard of a smiling disciplinarian? That just didn't fly, but it worked out so well, that, the next year they hired me on as a regular dean, and gave me a raise, and, also I won disciplinarian of the year, which is,
Okay.
amazing, and again, I was popular, the drama was popular, and as I
Mhm.
said, we were trying to work on getting the whiz going, and it was, again, flowing smooth. This is my 2nd year, and that EMO, Educational Management Organization, lost their charter, and I lost
Okay.
my job.
Uh,
I was floored. I mean, it's like, man, I was back in the house, Ernest. It's like, but now
mhm.
I'm getting ready to see, get ready to hit the curb. And, I had met some beautiful people at CICS Longwood, one of which was Dr. Gloria. She was Dr. Gloria Lewis at the time, Dr. Gloria McDaniel now. And, I met her, we befriended her, and also, Miss Aisha Strong was a teacher there. And they were moving over to a new school, CICS Prairie campus. And, they, when I told them my sob story that I lost my job, at the end of the year, they said, "Miles, you can come on over here. You can teach reading and have the drama program
There
underway
we go.
at the school." I said, "Wow, well, I love it." The money was horrible, man. It was McDonald's money, even though,
I can only
McDonald's
imagine.
is now, but it's like, look, I had a job, I was able to gig, and, just kinda make ends meet. The wife was looking at me side eye still, but it's like, okay, I'm working. And, my
Something's better
first
than nothing.
yeah, 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 but so my first opportunity, Dr. McDaniel, she wasn't doctor then, but, she principal of the school gave me, was to do the whiz, at
Okay.
the school, and it's like, wow, okay, I get a chance to put it together, and, that was something that she was always, excited about over at the Longwood campus, and,
Mhm.
we pulled it off, and man, it was fantastic. I'd done it before in the library, but this was the first time I really got a chance to do it in a school setting, and lo and behold, I didn't realize it at the time, but the young lady that was playing Glinda, the good witch,
Mhm.
was the assistant principal's niece.
Okay.
And she was raising her like, really like a second mom, but she was very,
Gotcha.
very shy, and she worked with, I was able to coax her out with my personality, and she knew, so I was silly and loved kids, but this little girl could sing, but to get her to play the part, the only way I could get her to play the part of Glinda, he was for her to play the part with the school nurse, who was Helena Muhammad, rest in peace. She was just a
Yes.
beautiful, beautiful woman, and the little shy girl that was playing Glinda, I split the Glinda character up into two. It was Glinda 1 and Glinda 2
Mhm.
in order to allow her to be able to sing. So
Smart.
she sang, along with Nurse Muhammad, and it I mean, it worked out beautifully. But I did not know that this was the assistant principal's niece. And
Okay.
you know, some people say good politics, but I was ignorant of politics, like I'm ignorant of it right now. But I didn't realize at the time, you know, what was going on. So I made it there that year, and the next year, didn't go so well at the school. After the Wiz, it was kind of, kind of rough to, kind of keep the popularity up and keep the kids' interest going. And I didn't
Hmm.
laugh at CICS Prairie. But not knowing that Dr. Linda Williams, who was the assistant principal, had her own school that she was getting because of how well she backed up Dr. McDaniel, she was able to get her own school and become a principal. And I was like, well, look, Mr. Miles, you can come on over here. Even though you're 10 years up at Prairie, come on over here to Washington Park. I'm a new principal, started a new school here. I understand
There we go.
your background is needy, but
Hmm.
I could still allow you to teach drama, teach a little fine arts. Not just being a teacher, we had a little more leeway being a charter school is. So I think I worked in the library. I was a librarian and I didn't know anything about it, but that's what happens, man, when people see what you're about and they're benevolent and they're generous and they give you, something that you really can't say that you deserve. And I did not deserve Dr. McDaniel giving me an opportunity, man. Yeah, we knew each other at the other charter school, but I didn't have the background. I didn't have
Hmm.
the chutzpah, I guess that's an old Jewish term, to even be a teacher. But I had the bonus of having kids like me, and and they
Exactly.
and kids know when you like them and they like you, and when you're really, really ready to give them opportunity. And that was in my favor. And Dr. Williams, even though she appreciated me putting her niece in that part, and she killed it. I mean, she's a singer, and she did well. She gave me an opportunity at Washington Park. And, per the insistence of Dr. McDaniel, Dr. Williams said, Miles, if you go back and get your degree, we can find a way to double your pay as well as your responsibilities. I said, wow. Well, I don't want to be your friend and be getting, perks and stuff and have the other teachers looking at me funny. She said, look, as soon as the kids leave,
Nice.
you can leave. You can leave. And so I wasn't, not doing what I was supposed to. I did what I was supposed to do, but when you guys left, she allowed me to go and pursue my last 2 years of education, which I did at Governor State University. And well, I was very apprehensive, man, but I found out that Governor State is for people just like me. I was approaching my 40s, and that was who they catered to, people that wanted to get their education late in life. Sure enough, I went, took a year and a half, got my degree in media, my Bachelor of Science in Media and Communications. And
That's wonderful.
none of, I was one of the first in the family to do that. And, my father's not living, but as I think about it now, I can, as I'm running off at the mouth confidently, I can
Hmm.
making sure I don't well up, but my father cried. Was seeing my father cry. My father was not a real expressive, but to see his son in his get his degree, you know, and he never got his degree. He was a philanthropist,
Right.
did a lot of stuff in the community, man, never got his degree. And so for him and my family to see me get a degree, it meant the world to me. But like I said, the Wiz really put me on the map. If I had not had the benefit of receiving a script from a good friend to do the Wiz and to use it, and even, his writing partner, he had already put the music on a CD, which was what was happening then. CD was new, you
Hmm.
know.
Yep.
I, I had a script. I had a CD, and that was my entree into education. And I wound up going to CICS Avalon, becoming the dean there, being very successful. Five years. I was also able to do the whiz there as well a couple of times. And again, so I'm really thankful to have been the beneficiary of people like Dr. Lewis, Dr. McDaniel at the time, Dr. Lewis at the time, Dr. McDaniel now, and Dr. Linda Williams. They gave me an opportunity, and if I know I've been running off at the mouth, but if I would love to be able to share how I got the script and the CD. Is it okay? Am I going too long here?
I want to hear your story and also about the Wiz. So please continue. Like this is why you're here. So please.
Yeah, yeah. Well, thank you again. I really appreciate the opportunity to lend my loquaciousness to the Cinematic Soul
Absolutely.
podcast. But
Yes, sir.
I mentioned before that I was out of work and not knowing what to do, and I had got I do confess I have a people would say I'm religious, but I have a relationship with the Lord, and that has been a hallmark of, how God can use somebody that doesn't necessarily have all of the capabilities, background, and, even education, as I shared that I didn't have when I worked at charter schools. But at this church that I got involved with, they were I had never seen anything like it. Uh It was only about 30, 35 people, but the whole church was involved in doing what they call production night spots. They would rent out a
Okay.
school. They would rent out an auditorium. I think the first production was at a kids' nursery school on the west side. But that's how they decided they were going to bring the person of Jesus Christ to the people that needed them, and they were the most loving people, man. I didn't want to be involved in church because I hadn't had a whole lot of good experience with church or church people. But these people, man, they were so warm and loving, and I mean beautiful, handsome, beautiful girls there. It's like I thought I was in heaven, and that's where I got my background in theater, because everybody was part of a ministry. My wife at the time, she was a part of the dance ministry. I didn't know what I was gonna do, but I really liked acting. This was back in the late 70s, early 80s, by the way, to really aging myself. But they had dance ministry, drama ministry, music ministry, prayer ministry, poetry. I mean, it was all arts. And it's like, this is unbelievable. This is something I like. The women were gorgeous. The guys were all handsome. Even the pastors were good looking. It was like, just unbelievable, and I got my start in drama at Cook County Jail. Now, Cook,
All right.
I did say Cook County Jail. Uh, uh, uh,
Yes.
I went there, and it was like they were primarily a jail ministry, and they would go once a week, and that also enamored me, to them. It's like, wow, they love the Lord, and they do what Jesus said, to go into the jails, and minister. They would feed them, and the inmates loved them, us, coming, spending time with them and stuff. So the pastor's wife, outstanding singer, Mary Lucas is her name. She said, "You know what? I think that you like somebody that can really act. So we're gonna put you here with this guy, as an 18-year-old guy, and he's doing drama now at the church. His name is Alfonso Wesson." He said, "I want you all to come up with a play, and you're gonna do it for the inmates. The brothers are very warm and welcoming. You're gonna make up a play on the spot. Where I'm gonna give you 20 minutes, and you got to come out here and do it. All right." And she left me and this 18-year-old guy to come up with improv for the inmates, these big, swole muscles on top of muscles, brothers. I'm already scared that I'm in Cook County Jail. I would be scared driving by there. I mean, just drive. I'm in there now, locked. I got to go through something even to get out of here. I'm afraid. And we're making up.
So they had you like a scene from the Fighting Temptations, right?
Well, hey, you know what? It's a kind so when you're just fighting temptations, if I'm not mistaken, brought the brothers out so that they could come and do stuff in the church. Well,
Safe,
they brought
right?
me in to the jail to do stuff. So we came up with a skit. He was an inmate, and I was mean, we were both inmates, and he was gonna beat up a guard. That's what we came up with. And I was trying to convince him using Christ and the dangers that it were gonna happen if he tried to beat this guard up. So anyway, we came up with this skit. And again, we couldn't really write stuff down. She only gave us 20 minutes. So we're sitting going back and forth, and we go out there. Man, I am beyond scared. Beyond scared. I'm a little narrow, little yellow something, and up in there with all these big swole brothers. And I was acting, I was improving, and we were going back and forth, and he was gonna beat the guard up, and I would say, "Man, are you sure you want to do that? This is gonna happen to you." And man, and he brought up, "But yeah, I'm not religious like you." We going back and forth, and I was able to tell him about Christ and tell him why what he was going to do was going to be dangerous and he was going to lose rather than gain. He was never going to get out. And, guy wound up changing his mind because of my convictions and his feeling Christ in me, and he didn't do it. And we wound up giving each other a hug, walking off, and we got a standing ovation from an improv put together in 20 minutes. I was frightened. He was frightened, and it was that was the beginning of my dramatic career. In Cook County
Wow.
Jail. And it was fascinating. But that brother, Alfonso Wesson, I sent you a picture of him. He's, since, all those years, this guy, he didn't, I think he got his GED. He taught
Okay.
himself theater. He taught himself television arts. His mom was handicapped. Dad was abusive. He taught himself the industry. He wound up going to was back in the day, it was an old show called the PTL Club. He had taught himself enough theater where he actually directed the Passion Play at 19 with live
Wow.
animals, adults, people that had been classically trained. He was self-taught. This guy, he's won 30 Emmys as a doing public service announcements and commercials. But that was the guy that I learned drama with at Cook County Jail. We became best friends. The guy was my best man in my wedding. And, so I went through that little history to go. When I lost my job, he had asked me to come and videotape him doing the whiz at St. Benedict the African School, one of the campuses in Chicago. And I videotaped it and I was fascinated. I was like, wow, you could, oh man, and because he had created adapted excerpts, he called it. And he and another brother that was in the church, Roger Harris, they did the music, but he had also put it on CD. So I I was videoing this. I said, wow, man, that's outstanding. And when the job came up to teach drama to the kids in the library at Wendell Smith, I said, "Man, could you loan me that script?" And it's like, "Yeah, you're my boy. Sure, sure, sure." You know, and Brother Roger has a track on CD. I said, "Man." this is slick. And I mean, it just worked out perfectly going into the libraries. And from the libraries, that's where, after I lost my main good paying job, that's what got me into charter school. That's what this guy was so excited about that he hired me on the spot, even though he failed to look at my resume. You know,
You're right.
the whiz opened the door. And, again, getting in the library, getting in CICS Longwood, doing it there, going over to Prairie, doing it there at Prairie, I'm meeting Dr. Williams. Dr. Williams hired me at her school. This is the whiz carrying me from place to place. Ernest, I didn't know what I was going to do in life. I didn't know. All I knew is I love people, I love kids. Didn't I finish college? I didn't know what I was going to do. So the whiz actually created a career for me.
So the whiz is why I even met you in the first place.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So that
Wow.
that's what, you know,
Wow.
that's what got me in Washington Park,
It's
to
amazing.
see you there. And again, that's why it's a special thing to me. Even as a married, man, our family loved the Wizard of Oz. So
Hmm.
it was a natural kind of a thing. I actually when I was going to college in the mid '70s, man, I actually saw one of the first productions of The Wiz at the Schubert Theater, and I think it was '76. And I was, mystified. I was blown away because I had never seen anything like it before.
Right.
Little did I know that I was going to be, receiving the script for the adapted excerpts, getting the CD, from, again, to two of the guys that were, one of they were the closest to me. It was, I mean, you just can't script stuff like this to to use a theater term. It's just the way that it's happened was fascinating. And like I said, this brother now. Again, I think he just got his 30th Emmy. And, again, this is somebody that not classically trained. As I said, my mom was handicapped. I know it's not a popular term now, but she was disabled. He basically raised his mom. And like I said, his
Okay.
dad was abusive. And, and to teach yourself theater, to teach yourself enough television arts to actually direct the passion play with live animals, at 19, I can't
That's
say enough
amazing.
about Alfonso Wesson, man. The dude is something, still love him. And Roger Harris, the brother that gave me the CD, man, he's still gigging. He's in semi-retirement, but one of the better musicians out there. But again, for them to give me, the okay to use a script, to use them, his playing, to better my career. I mean, I thank God for both of them, man. As well as Dr. Williams and Dr. McDaniel's, allowing me the opportunities because you know, again, I am a beneficiary of grace, mercy, generosity, and because I was to say that I was rough around the edges would be a gross understatement. But I was just so thankful for, students like you guys. I was accepted at Washington Park where you and your sister were students. And I love, the opportunity to give you guys opportunities to, you were as I remember, you were a pretty shy guy, and you were always cool. You
Yeah. Yeah.
always liked you. You were for your audience. You were the one that the
Hmm.
teacher would allow to take stuff to the office and to take stuff around the school. You were a trustee, a monitor. You were that kind of a
Yeah.
guy. Yeah, 'cause I always enjoyed you, always mannerable. I know we're talking about the Wiz, but I will
Hmm.
never, ever, ever, ever forget your class
Oh yeah, I know where we're going.
for performing on Christmas,
Hmm.
doing that segment from Sister Act. Happy that and man, I mean, I was videoing the performance at the time. I would love I well, I would give anything to find the tape. But when you start singing, I said, "Oh my gosh, Ernest, he's singing the lead." And I was excited because of course we know, it builds up to that key change. You know?
Hmm. Yep.
I said,
Yep.
"Oh, no, no way." Now I know you had your part in the
Can't do
wind,
it, but yeah.
and I know you had your small little singing part. I said, "Oh no,
Hmm.
he's gonna do it." Oh, happy that he's not gonna hit that note. He is not gonna hit that note. He is
So
not gonna
there's
hit
actually
that.
a story about that, like how that all came into place. I'll try to be quick with it. Nobody knows this, but I gotta say, going back to the Wiz, as you said, I was one of the shyer students. I was a student who I was always watching, but I
Uh-huh.
didn't necessarily want or need to be heard. Like some kids, they wanted to be seen. They wanted to be out in front. I was fine being in the back, but
Yep.
I did always have that urge to get on stage. I just never knew how to push my light. And we actually had a conversation about that later on. But in the Wiz, how the Wiz happened, I appreciated being in that show. But me being who I am today, I've been the same person mentally since back then. So when we did the Wiz, after you had like casted all the parts and things like that, there were some roles I felt like I could have done,
Yep.
but I just didn't, I didn't put myself out there like that. But it was too late. And
Yeah.
when we did the show, it was good. Everybody loved it. I loved it. But me being me, I was like, I feel like that should be me.
Yep.
And next time I get a chance to sing something, even if I don't sing the whole song, I
Mhm.
want them to see me
Yeah.
because I might not be the best, but I know I have something to say.
Yeah.
So when it came time to sing Sister Act 2, people didn't know it, but I've been watching that movie since I was a baby. Like, I'm like, I know this from top to bottom. I can sing this song right now if they ask me to.
Yeah.
So there were people who were like listening all the time to us singing. So I made sure I was being heard at the right moment. And the
Yeah.
classmate heard me say it first, like heard me hit the note first. And then
Mhm.
it got around that I was doing it. And the people kept saying, do it, do it, do it. You know how to say, do it, do it, do it. And it became that kind of thing. And ultimately, what it became was me going up and singing that part on the stage. And everybody just like, whoa. Like people today still come up to me and say, remember when you sang Sister Act 2? Like that was so long ago. But I
I
have
still
classmates from
remember that. I
then come
still
up to me
remember.
now saying that. So yeah, that's amazing.
I
Yes,
still
sir.
remember that. I will never ever forget it. I remember everybody, the place was up for grabs. Everybody was diving
They were
over
yeah.
one another, screaming because you hit it perfectly. You hit it perfectly. And I was supposed to be videotaping and I lost it. I was like, no. When we do this again, Ernest will not play. I don't know what I'm trying to remember whether you were a munchkin or what in the
Mhm.
wind, but whatever part that you play, I said, "Oh no, that's gonna be my Tin Man, or that's gonna be my lion."
I remember the lines. So I had 2 lines. I
Mhm.
said my first lines were, I've got it." And they said, "What? What?" And I said, "Maybe the Wiz can help you." And then
Yep.
that was it. Then we like fast forwarded, and then I had a little part where I did like a little slide, and I said, "Slide on down the road." And then they said, "Walk on down the road." And it was just, but that was it. And I was like, I want more. I didn't know it at the time of the auditions and things like that, but I was like, I got to get back on the stage somehow. and I
Yeah.
ended up doing theater in high school and theater major in college and doing shows. Now I could jump on the stage now, and it's like I tap into a space where still somewhat shy, but I know that's my zone.
Yeah.
And when I'm there, I can lock into a place that nobody can take me out of until I'm ready to come out.
Yeah.
And the show must go on. I started these podcasts, and yeah, here we are.
Well, and you're really the more typical performer, just the shyer guys. I have another guy, buddy, that also when he was more trained. His name is Gerald Allen Reed. He had a part on Martin back really back in the day. He played a character called Wallace that Martin thought Wallace was hitting on Gina, but he was really trying to.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. He was really in
Okay.
love with Pam, and, uh,
Right.
um, and we were all excited for him, and when we asked him, "Hey, man, what's Martin like, man?" He said, "Martin didn't say one word to anybody. He sat in the corner, he was in a chair. He was nice when you went up to him and talked to him, but he was very, very socially, back in the background. And really my buddy Daryl is is really kind of introverted as well. But you guys
Mhm.
generally make the better performers. Guys like me, I'm loquacious, I'm extroverted. I'm
That's
not
alright.
your typical actor, but it's you introverted guys that kinda explode, and I couldn't wait. I said, "Oh, no, that Ernest psyched me out, and I didn't know he had that in him when you did that Sister Act 2 song." I said, no, 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 no. He is going to play this, that, and the other." And it just so happened that I wound up going to CICS Avalon, that next
Mhm.
year and kinda trying to pick up where I left off. But yeah, you guys are generally the better performers, the guys that are introverted. But it's really exciting to hear, you went ahead on and got your, educational advancement in theater, and
Yes, sir.
the stages, and your singing again is again just top notch, and I'm looking for an opportunity. Again, there was another young man at CICS Prairie that claims that he was going to be an electrical engineer until I made him
Mhm.
stage manager for the Wiz at Prairie.
Oh, wow.
And so now he's gone on. He has his own theater company, a Pulse Theater. I was trying to connect you two, and if it's God's will, I would love for you all to connect. He's done stuff with Black Ensemble at Aaron Reese Bozeman, and I think I've
Okay.
shared with you about him.
Right.
Again, he started acting. He went to Seton and got in the drama program over there. And I think it was those years that he realized that he was the nephew of Chadwick Boseman. So
Oh, wow.
we didn't know this, I don't think he knew it until later on, got a chance to meet and hobnob with Chad, and he became Uncle Chad. And, again, and he has adopted the Bozeman name. He uses that as part of his name, but he claims, I think he's being nice to an old man, but he said that, he adapted his love for theater because of his, he didn't even have a part in the Wiz. He was my stage manager. I think he filled in and might have been a munchkin later on, but, like I said, he went ahead on. And I'm trying to think, what did his last thing he played BB King at a black ensemble, if I'm not mistaken. But again, it's really rewarding to hear somebody like me that wasn't even trained. You know, the only thing that I had that you guys picked up, and I know you did. If I ever had any lack of confidence in myself, I know that you guys like me, and I know you knew that I liked
Yes,
you.
sir.
You know,
Absolutely.
that love was there, and the parents, even if they saw I was rough, your mom was always at the school, whatever the lack that they saw, they knew that I loved you guys. But it's so rewarding to hear that, you're going on, you've been on, and doing professional theater, and using your voice as well as your singing voice to push the arts, man, and using what's in you. So I couldn't be more pleased for you to invite me, at this stage of my life to, you start to question whether made a difference, whether you did anything that was worthwhile, whether you affected anybody, with what you had to offer. And, to hear that you went on, with theater, and
Yes, sir.
they're doing it well, and maybe a couple of others. It's a great feeling, but it's really more. I can admit I didn't have the best self-image, and I'm still at this late stage of my life working on being pleased with myself. I guess God is it's a scripture, and I think I don't know if we sang it at WP or not. I am beautifully and wonderfully made. And it's actually a scripture. I'm fearfully and wonderfully made, but I'm still learning that, just because I didn't have and I don't have, you know, when God unites with a soul that trusts him, I'm a living witness of that. There's no way I should have gotten a job with charter schools. There's no way that a professional is gonna miss on a resume the fact that a guy in education doesn't have his degree. That's the first thing you look for. God opened that door and to allow me to have a script and a CD, and the only thing I needed was a boombox, and to make it work. And I was able to forge a career. And I can't pat myself on the back for anything other than the fact that, man, Lord, you allowed me to be around kids. You allowed me to love them and them love me back. Even though, at the last campus that I worked at, was I know aware of Mr. Gibson and Mr. and Mrs.
Oh
Gibson.
yeah. Oh
Just
yeah.
loving people, and Mr. Gibson was the security guy at the last campus, as well as
Yep.
other places too, at WP as well. Yeah, I had a spotless record there, but I have to pat Mr. Gibson on the back too, because he was not to be trifled with, as you remember.
Not at all. Not at all.
You did not mess with him, but even, I became a good dean, and it worked. Yeah, I did drama. Yeah, I gave people a chance to sing and to act and things. But, you know, again, I'm smiling, saying hi to the kids. The kids are breaking line to come hug me. That's not the best example of a disciplinarian, but it worked. And like I said, I thank God for it. The opportunity, the opportunity to direct, to say that I'm a drama director. It's like wow. And yeah, I ultimately got my degree in media communications, but that was well after I'd been teaching kids. And again, like we're supposed to be talking about. I hope I haven't digressed too much. The Wiz. I owe my career to the two gentlemen, was it William Brown and Brother Smalls, for coming up with the Wiz, because that
Yes, sir.
created a career for me. So I'm thankful.
Yes, sir. So let's get into the movie aspect of The Wiz for a little bit. Fast forwarding to the film version, this is where for me it gets interesting. I've been watching all kinds of stuff. Obviously, you all who are listening know I was not born when the stage play came out or when the movie came out, but
Yeah,
I am a huge fan, historian, all that jazz. But you
yeah,
get Diana Ross as Dorothy, which, you know, has its issues. You get Michael Jackson as the Scarecrow, and this is Michael Jackson pre Off the Wall,
Yep,
before Thriller, before all of that.
yep,
Richard Pryor as the Wiz, Ted Ross, who has, in my years of growing and maturing, become my favorite role in the movie.
yep.
Played the lion. I think that's probably my number one role as far as watchability nowadays. He just carried, and you can see his theater chops, obviously his range. You can tell he was the one the glue, who held it all together. And obviously, Nipsey Russell played the lovely Tin Man. And for you, I'm assuming you saw this when it first came out in 1978. What was your honest reaction at that time? How'd you feel about the movie version of The Wiz?
I was comparing it to the stage play, and I said I got a chance to watch in
Mhm.
'76, and it was like, wow, it was kinda the pacing kinda threw me, and,
Right.
Diana Ross, like you said, that was an interesting choice,
Mhm.
before, but I respected her and her chops, and, again, I'm old enough to have remember watching her on the old Ed Sullivan Show back in the '60s, the Supremes, So, but it was an interesting group of people, even and Nipsey Russell was a comedian that I also seen on a lot of the endless variety shows that were on back in the '60s and early '70s. But it was a hard comparison, but it was some exciting stuff that I saw at the beginning. I was trying to say, wow, well this. Wow, she's sitting and she's sad and they're singing this song that I don't remember
Right.
about family and she's crying and she's depressed. It's like, okay, I don't know if I'm gonna get into this. Now, I appreciate the Diana Ross, but I don't
Right.
know about this here. But as we started getting into it, you know, it's like, okay, wow. Okay, all right. I got it. I got it. I got it. And just some of the creative ways that they, utilized representing the Wizard of because as I said earlier, I was a Wizard of Oz fan, so I was comparing it not only to the stage play that I had seen in '76, I'm comparing it to the Wizard of Oz that I've been seeing since I was 4 or 5 years old. So, but I got into it, I said, "Wow." Well, Michael Jackson, I mean, what you know, he brought so much to it and with all his abilities. I said, okay, all right, I think I can get into this. I think I can get into this. And and Nipsey Russell, kind of took me back to the comedian days, you know, and I think as I remember it, if, from the movie, a teeny, teeny was that okay, that me you know, and
Yep.
and how they did what is it? What shall I do with the faces of the sisters that were, a part of keeping him under teeny spell, I guess. And
Oh
there's
yeah,
just
that was a nice touch.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
I got a bit kind of startled me at first because they kind of came on.
Right.
I said, "Whoa!"
Exactly.
But,
I know
it was
exactly
a
what you
little
mean.
bit of each one, but see, Ted Ross,
Mhm.
he is the embodiment of the Wiz. I mean, since he had
Yes.
done it, when he had been doing it for years on Broadway, you know, he was the lion, So it was different, those different things that grabbed you in it, but I wound up, and then, adding a little touch with Quincy Jones in there, and
Yes, yes, to music.
God, and even doing his little cameo in that
Mhm.
was what was cool, but going to the colors, I think, you know, I'd rather be seen in green, you know? So it's like it's just little touches that they added to it that really, because again, different from the stage play. It was still The Wiz, but the play was so much different, putting it on the screen. But
Right.
it was things that they added to it that grabbed me. And I forgot about Richard Pryor as The Wiz. You know,
Oh,
as
wow, okay. Yeah.
as much as back in my day, he was the man. And you
Right.
got the albums, and my parents used to enjoy watching me fall all over the floor crying, laughing at Richard Pryor's, his comedy, his monologues,
Mhm.
his concert. But and that was the one thing. It's like, man, I don't know if that kind of grabbed me like I wanted it to. It like probably they thought he would because he was Richard Pryor, but but
At the time,
overall,
yeah.
it was special. It was special, but
Mhm.
I don't know if this is a time for it, but something that's still haunting that subway scene.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh, oh, the subway scene was, and it was. I don't know if it was supposed to be as scary as it was,
Right.
but it got me. And I guess us going back into our little maybe hoodoo voodoo roots. You know, doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo. You know,
Listen here. This is the truth. I've
ah,
seen that scene. I've seen the movie over 100 times. I've
yes,
seen that scene, I
uh-huh.
can count on my hands, 6 times in my life. 4 of those 6 times have come in, like, the past 5 years. So, when I was younger, skipped it every time. I'm like, I watched it the first time, scared me. I watched it one more time because somebody else was playing it. Outside of that, I just fast forward like 5 minutes. No, thank you. Opportunities for me that was not watched. Just like the Thriller video, love Michael Jackson. I was not watching it. I would just watch everything else. That subway scene was the same exact way. No, sir.
And I was a
No,
grown
sirree.
man. I see. I'm glad you
That's all
shared
right.
that. Because it seemed like I was wimpy to, good, because
Mm-mm.
even when my family would watch it, I would kind of
Nope.
leave the room a couple of times. I've seen it a bunch of times, not as many as you, but I've seen it bunches of times. But that was it was haunting, and
Yes, yes.
even when they show up on, when I see them before the subway, coming, I was readying myself. But that it was genius because it brought up the fear that they were supposed to evoke, in
Yep.
there for everybody to stand up and be who they wound up being. But yeah, yeah, I would doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo, you know.
So it's funny. Talking about seeing a movie in theaters. Obviously, like I said, was not born in 1978, guys. So last year, for the anniversary of the stage play, they brought the movie to theaters for like a week.
Oh
And
wow,
they had maybe it was like 2 showings every day for like a week. And I saw that. I was like, I have to go there. That's gonna happen. So yeah, last year they had the movie in theaters, and I was like, okay, I've seen this movie, like I said, over 100 times, but I've never seen it in theaters. And they had it in something that's called 4DX. And I was like, ooh,
mm,
hmm. The ticket was like
yeah,
$20, which is kind of steep, but I was like, I wonder
yeah,
what that feels and sounds like. Okay, I'm going. So I went there, and it was like 12:30. When I tell you it was a theater
uh,
with like maybe 200 seats, but there were maybe 20 of us in the theater, and I was probably the youngest person
mm,
there for sure. But we went there, and I gotta say, seeing it like that and feeling like the song in the seats vibrating, and that subway scene, for example, on
oh
that big
wow,
screen with the 4DX, it made me view it all differently. And that Tin Man, that song made me cry when I saw it in theaters
yeah,
because I've always loved it. But that sound, that quality,
yeah,
his voice, you could feel the pain
yeah.
going through your own body. And those words just hit so much harder. So that brings me to my question for you. Are there any songs that you prefer more in the stage play or the movie? Because I know for me, I gotta say that version of the song is probably my
Mm,
favorite version of it.
okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I wish I would like to take advantage of an experience like that to, get you. What is that again? It's called the 4D. Yeah, I would.
4DX.
I'd like to say I haven't
4DX.
been in a theater in a while, but I would really like to go and experience something like that. But yeah, yeah.
It's
But
pretty cool.
I'm trying to think of unusual, and I think because Mabel King that played Eveline. And
Yes.
probably watching her growing up, you weren't around yet, but that's my mama. She played on that old series. It was I think was it
Mhm.
Clifton Davis was
Oh,
her
yeah.
son. I'm trying to think, but I don't know if I'm mixing them up. But yeah, but she did such a good job, and that was always a special song in the when we do the plays. Eveline, my Eveline
Yep.
had to be strong, you know, had to bust it out and handle
Absolutely.
that part. And so that's always a special song. But in the movie, I gotta admit, everybody rejoiced. And probably because Luther was in it
Yeah.
and I didn't realize Luther was Luther until, later. I said, wait a minute, that's Luther in that. And I also
Nobody
didn't
knew, yeah.
realize I had his album. I think he was with a group called Change at one time, and then he had a group Luther, and it was on the album that I had. And I thought I said, oh man, that nice. He's redoing the song from the Wiz, not realizing he was a part of the song in the movie. And if you listen, yeah,
So he
yeah, it
actually
was his
wrote that
song.
song.
Yeah, he wasn't being a
Yeah, that's crazy.
nice guy
Yeah.
and just singing it again. This was his song. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So
No,
that
that was him, yeah.
mean a lot, but I think
Okay.
being a sentimentalist that I am, if you believe in yourself, you know, it kind of
Oh,
brings
yeah.
a tear, and the way that Lena say I didn't appreciate it at first. The way she sang it. First, it was kind of like, wow, she is really dramatic. I think I remember when
Mhm.
they covered it on TV, and they
Yeah,
were kind of
not
like,
yeah.
wow, she's going overboard with this. But over the years, kind of
Mhm.
it was touching, the way that she sang it, But I guess, as I think about it, even home, from Stephanie Mills doing it to, I think that was a hard act for Diana to follow, but she's, being a singer, she,
Yeah.
she pulled it off. But yeah, yeah, yeah,
She
yeah,
did what
yeah.
she
She
could.
she 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 got skills, but yeah, yeah, yeah. There's so many that are really special, and I remember Ernest going back to Washington Park when we did it, deviated from the movie. Delina Purifoy, I know you remember. She was my Glenda,
Mhm.
and I remember her singing it and just brought the house down, She could have been all of 12, 11, 12, and I don't know if she still sings now, but she had skills back then, and that's kind of, brings that as kind of a special song from Glenda, but believe in yourself, So,
Right.
but yeah, 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 just a special piece, man, and like I said, so many iterations from the play to the movie, But now you got me wanting to see the movie again and see it with all the effects that you experienced.
That's what it's all about, yeah. I don't know if they're gonna do that again, at least anytime soon, because like I said, that was for the
Okay.
anniversary last year, but hopefully so. With
Yeah,
the,
yeah,
Michael stuff out now, maybe they might bring back all the stuff he was in, and it's like, say, "Hey, let's bring the Wiz back," and put that back in
yeah,
theaters again. I will go see it
yeah,
again, even though I saw it last year,
yeah.
and yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
just have
yeah.
a
And
good
like I
time.
said, maybe with now with the movie coming out, everything Michael related. I know
Mhm.
it's a lot of social media. It's been flooded
Exactly.
with all kinds of stuff from Michael, understandably so. Yeah,
All
yeah,
up and
yeah.
down.
But yeah,
So I have a segment here. I have a segment here on the podcast called Cinematic Flowers. And on Cinematic Flowers, it's where I take the time to spotlight a person from the movie who not only spoke to me as a performer, but is a person who stands out in a way that didn't always stand out to me. And I kind of said it earlier, but growing up, I was a diehard Michael Jackson fan, still am. So obviously, naturally, I saw the Scarecrow. I saw the other characters, but
Yeah.
the Scarecrow had all my attention, all my focus up until my adult years. I noticed Ted Ross more because I got into theater myself and learned his theater background. So I learned more about him, the actor, him, the performer. So seeing him play the lion in the movie now, I'm just like, it just works. Even though the movie as a whole doesn't quite work the same way now, I still love it. But as a film critic, I can see
Yeah.
why people say it didn't work. He worked. He worked in the play. He worked in the movie. His timing, his energy, all of it. It just is fantastic to me. So, if you had to give the flowers to one person from the movie,
Ted
who would
Ross.
that be for you?
I don't know.
Ted Ross, yeah.
I mean, he was just captivating. The way that he delivered his lines. The way that
Yes.
his character cried in that. And expressed his fear. It was like, he just got me. And probably because of the theater and my own little theater background and teaching drama and everything. Yeah, Ted Ross was. I mean, I had a reason to love everybody and different. From Diana to Michael to Nipsey. To Richard Pryor, even the cameo with Quincy. But Ted Ross got me. It's like he is the man. He's a man, and just the way that
Absolutely.
he did everything. Yeah, he would have to be the standout for me.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
So we are on the same page with that one.
Mhm.
Last question for you. So we talked about how you got into theater, how you became a teacher with CICS, how it turned nothing into something and that became a lifelong career that started with the Wiz. So looking back at all the students you've worked with, all the teachers, the people who still think about you or remember you, what do you hope stuck with us the most? Like, what's the one thing you hope we took from meeting you and experiencing you
Oh
as a
man, you
teacher and a
kind of
person?
get you have me crying on here. You really have to cut my tears out. But it's so cool
Yes, sir.
to
Yes, sir.
the explosion of social media. So it's not social media, but yeah, it's on social media just to be able to reach out to people from your past and to see how you affected them and you're affected by them and it's just the whole thing. But it's really rewarding, even to, like I said, to be invited to be a part of the podcast. And that's a something I never thought I would get a chance to do. I've had people suggest that because of my personality or something, but no, I don't think I'd ever be able to do it. So to do it is great, but to be a part of it with you, it's it's really rewarding. And even I'm glad you shared about, the small part that you were offered by me back in the day, because maybe I was looking too much at your shyness and not realizing that wow, it's an explosion up underneath.
Mhm.
Uh, uh, it's so cool. And again, I can remember like it was yesterday, Ernest, that you're doing a song from Sister Act, and your teacher dressing up like a nun, as you remember, and you all singing it, and I can remember the build up. I said, "No, he's not gonna do that. No, he's not gonna do it. No." Oh my God! And like I said, and to watch I remember the kids. I mean, the whole auditorium. The kids were all over the place, and then my feeling after that. So all of that, remembering, being sentimental like that and having that long memory and, now today, you're grown with kids. I'm a senior citizen, kind of looking back at my life, and you just wonder, wow, did they know that I loved them? And I think you all were benevolent, probably realizing this guy is not a teacher, but he's keeping me entertained. You know, I remember things that I did as a teacher from, the Nicholas brothers. I don't know if you remember the classes that we had in fine arts with the Nicholas brothers.
Oh yeah.
And I don't know if you remember, it was a guy named
Hmm.
Stephen McKinney at WP. And Stephen McKinney
Yep.
and I remember
I sure do.
Stephen was a stagehand. I remember in between acts of The Wiz, Stephen jumped over and did into a split in between acts of The Wiz. And everybody, for some reason, everybody saw it.
Wow.
And I couldn't even get mad. I was laughing that, something that I did and exposed him to, because you wonder, yeah, at school, and yeah, I'm into black performers and historic Nicholas brothers. But, to see Stephen, who was always a character, always in trouble, he jumped over a bunch of people into a split, just like the Nicholas brothers. And it's like, wow, that's how I was starting to realize, wow,
It's
I've had
amazing.
some kind of effect on these students, these kids. They listened. They Whatever shortcomings I had, they overlooked. So they saw the God in me. I know that's a popular thing now, but it's like, look, I didn't have nothing, but Jesus got me in there. Jesus gave me people that gave me favor, but I actually, had somebody remember me, and I've been in touch with Daylena via Facebook, and yourself and Cree and Gianna, some of other students that were at WP, that still remember me, and this was back 20, almost 25 years ago. So that is
Yes,
so
sir.
rewarding. When you're not surrounded by as many people, your kids are grown, family things happen, where, you're not around the people that you were before, and you start to, entertain negativity sometimes. And what you weren't and what you didn't do. You weren't that smart, and yeah, some of the kids that you helped and then had the discipline. You got the same learning challenges, and I will admit to your audience, I have had learning challenges from the time I started school. I didn't realize them, you know, and there's a temptation to lean toward those as disadvantages and handicaps. But I can see, Ernest, that God used that, those whatever learning challenges that I had to gravitate toward the dramatic arts, to gravitate toward theater, to gravitate toward television arts. And that's kind of made me who Keith Miles is. So, a long answer to a short question, just to be invited to the podcast means more to me than I could even imagine. I would try to explain to my kids. They're probably not even gonna be able to even grasp it, but just the fact that I made a difference, I showed somebody that maybe had a learning challenge like me, that they could do something and be something. I wasn't supposed to graduate from college at in my 40s, but I was able to do that. So if I could pass something along, whatever shortcoming you had, whatever you've gone through, like I said, the brother that I first went on stage with at Cook County Jail, you know, his mom was disabled. His dad was an abuser, and he's got 30 Emmys now. you know so it's like he taught himself
It's amazing.
in spite of his upbringing. That's the thing, whatever you're thrown in life that it seems like it's not fair, you saw from Mr. Miles, "Hey, man, Mr. Miles loved me." Even as a dean, kids knew if a teacher sent them to me for trouble, I was gonna ask the teacher what they did. "What did you do for little Johnny to be sitting in front of me right now?" And the kids knew that. They knew they were gonna get a fair shake, you know? It makes me feel good that the kids saw what I had. I might not have had what everybody else had, but they saw what I had, and it made a positive impact on them, whether it was creatively, whether it was in their chosen profession, whatever it is that Mr. Miles loved them and gave them at the time of day, and
Yes, sir.
he enjoyed the conversation, and he remembered times from, you say, when you were 10 years old, you know? I still remember. I'm thankful that
Hmm.
whatever challenges I have, my memory, I'm not challenged, and I remember stuff, and it means a lot. So I don't know if I've answered your question. I know I've digressed. I go all bird walk all over the place, but the fact that I was able to make
You're
a
good. You're
difference,
good.
man, it is so
Yes, sir.
rewarding. God being in my life, and that him convincing me that I was worth it, and that if I can accept, his loving me with all my shortcomings and failures and everything like that, that he still used me and I made a difference. And like I said, I'm here talking to you. From we're both grown men, and we first met when you were a fifth grader. So at that, you'll never know just how much it means just to talk about it. I mean, the podcast is exciting, but just to talk to you about it is bringing back stuff that is really, really blessing me even right now.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And let me just say this in closing. Let me close us out and tell this story real fast and then close us out. There was a moment with you and I don't know if you remember it, but I remember it very clearly. I was sitting on the steps one day and I had my new CD player. This new Genuine CD had came out and I was singing the song from the CD. I didn't think anybody could hear me, but I saw like two shadows creeping around the corner. So I stopped, took my headphones off, and just kind of sat there quietly. I put my headphones back on when I thought they were gone, kept singing, and then I saw your glasses peek around the corner, and I stopped again, and you came up to me and you said, "That was you over here singing that song?" And I'm just looking like, no. Like by that point, everybody knew I was like a singer, but I was still shy about it. So I'm just like, no, that wasn't me. And you said, listen, you have a gift. Don't let fear get in the way of you letting your light shine. Keep shining, and I promise you'll go far. And I kid you not, the very next week, we had a thing where in the lunchroom, we would like sing songs sometimes on
Yeah,
Fridays
yeah.
or something like that. And the song I chose that I sang that week and like four more times after that was the song you caught me singing in the hallway. It was a song called Love You More by Genuine. And I went and got the microphone. They're like, you gonna sing? You gonna sing? And I started singing. I was like, and I just sang the song. And they were like clapping and cheering and then singing the song with
Oh,
me.
wow.
And they loved it. And that was another moment that came from you peeking around the corner, me being shy, and having a quick
Yeah.
conversation that, like I said, you might not even remember. But for me, that 11-year-old, that stuck with me. So I just want to thank you and give you your flowers and say to the audience as well that sometimes that's all it takes. That one moment, that one person, that one role model who sees something in you and gives you a space to step into it. So I've said it time and time again. I appreciate you. for everything, for coming on to the podcast today, for the conversation, for the whiz, and just being who you are. And for you all, if you go back and watch The Wiz, don't just watch it as a movie. Watch it as an experience and try to find something new that you can unlock in this viewing. Hit me up. Tell me what y'all think. And thank y'all for listening. Stay black, stay magical, and keep the soul in cinema alive. Peace and love.